means a willingness to fail. I build confidence through competence. To have that beginner's mindset, to me, really paves the road for the ability to get better and to grow.
It's okay to fail, be willing to fail. And when you start as a beginner, you're not supposed to do it well. You're not supposed to be good. Hello there, it's me, Steve Mellor, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in high-performance fitness and lifestyle coach Luke DePron, who is all about establishing the standards required to grow. Sound familiar?
The only thing we're looking to accomplish this first week is we are going to hit our guaranteed minimum standards.
As you're about to hear from Luke, it's not about whether you're ready to reach the top of the mountain. It's about whether you're able to find a strong enough reason why to start in the first place. Hey guys, as we get started here with the episode, I want to just take 1 minute of your time to make a request for you to subscribe and rate the show. For our show to be easily discovered by other potential listeners, we need our current listeners, that's you, to take the time to not only subscribe, but to also rate the show. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever platform of choice, there are typically ways to be rating the show. So go ahead and click something like that 5th star and be sure to take that additional time to leave a comment or two about why it is you enjoy listening to the Growth Ready podcast. Your efforts on this will allow our show to be more discoverable, which means we're going to find more listeners and continue to have that significant impact on the community of human performance and personal development that I know you are all benefiting from by being listeners to this show. Please go ahead, take the time, subscribe, rate the show today. Hey, and while you're at it, why don't you share it with a few people as well? I appreciate you guys. Let's get to the interview. Okay, and welcome into the most recent installment of Growth Ready. I am excited to have a returning guest come in, previously from when we were Career Competitor to now where we are as Growth Ready, as I get to welcome back Luke DePron. And the best thing, Luke, about people that I'm welcoming back from what we were as Career Competitor to what we are now as Growth Ready is I get to ask everyone a question I did not get to ask you last time, which is that of what does it mean to you to be Growth Ready?
I think for me, it means a willingness to fail. And I say that from the idea that I'm someone who I build confidence through competence, but I'm aware that to arrive to that point, I'm probably going to have to suck first. And so opening up, I think, that space to fail, to not be good in the beginning, to have that beginner's mindset, to me, really paves the road for the ability to get better and to grow and to be ready.
I like how you frame it through this notion of beginner's mindset. And because I think when we hear this, it's a term we hear it all the time. It's okay to fail, be willing to fail, but then to actually bring it into, well, what if we looked at it more as you start as a beginner? And when you start as a beginner, you're not supposed to do it well. You're not supposed to be good. You're supposed to suck. Sometimes for a long time. And so you work in the health and wellness space. And as we were joking before we pressed record, you're a leader in that space. And I'm very much a follower in that space. I try to live that life without being a leader in it. And where I want to go now with you is just talk to us about how you work with folks when it comes to the beginner's mindset, because I'd have to assume a lot of the time when you first start working with someone, they're having to get comfortable, and more importantly, you're having to get them comfortable with the idea of, hey, right now you're just a beginner.
Yeah. And this, I think, can be across a multitude of kind of pillars in that health and wellness space that I'm in, right? You might be a beginner at exercising, both from your physical capacity and what you're able to do because you're simply out of shape in the moment, or the actual logistics of like, how do I do these exercises? Right? Like I've never done a split squat and like, it's going to be shaky and you're going to like not feel your glute engage at first and you're wobbly and you got to send the videos in and I'm critiquing your form and, okay, I've never tracked any of my nutrition before. Like, how do I do that? Well, okay, we can find the easiest path to do it for you that makes sense. And again, like I've never taken a photo of my food. I've never meal prepped. Like there's so many layers of things that you've probably never done. But to bring it back to that kind of beginner's mindset, a huge part of what I help guys do, and I think the path forward for most is how do we simplify that process to make doing those quote new hard things actually feel easier? How do we reduce the barrier of entry so that you can actually get moving on some of this stuff, start building some momentum? And again, coming back to my kind of belief of actually building a little bit of confidence through competence by checking those boxes that you've actually done some of these things.
Yeah, I really appreciate the confidence through competence. And it's the cart before the horse kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like, because we just want to be confident, right? I mean, wouldn't it be nice?
I mean, you meet some of those people and I always kind of joke. I'm like, I'd probably be a little further ahead in life if I had like delusional confidence when I see like the Conor McGregors of the world or like Trump or Kanye, like love him or hate him, right? But like at that point, it's like almost delusional self-belief. I don't necessarily operate in those spaces. And there's probably some specific, personality traits that are also great to not have that comes with some of that. But yeah, I think, really hitting standards, proving, new stories true by actually getting something done that you said you were going to do. And it could be on a small scale. It could be literally just like, hey, this week I'm going to do 2 workouts. And it's like, that's a great place to start. And that's that beginner, mindset of like, cool, let's hit that standard, like own that standard, soak up that confidence, celebrate that win. And then we can start to layer in more and build things up from there.
Well, we're going to get to standards. It's a big part of what we represent with Growth Ready. But for me, I want to dive a little deeper now into this, how we start small, because again, and I'd have to go back and check the exact date, but I can't help but feel as though we probably talked about resolutions and the resolution mindset when we first spoke. And it's almost too easy to go down that path when I'm speaking to a, health and wellness professional. But for me, I've found, at least in my world, non-fitness, more corporate space, more problem-solving space with executives, if it always seems like every mountain's a little too high to climb when we look at the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And when we actually just look at the step in front of us, things get a little bit more, to use your word, simple. And so with that being said, I would love just to learn from you, and I think this is going to help a lot of listeners, when it comes to simplifying and when it comes to starting small, what is it we need to know about that maybe requires us to get a coach to begin with, but can we develop that skill? Can that be something that we ourselves are aware of, that, hey, I'm looking at the mountain right now, the peak, and I'm not looking at where I am here at the bottom.
Sure.
And so how do you maybe get people into that mindset to begin with? And then secondly, how can it be turned and trained in a way where it maybe becomes a behavior as well?
Sure. So obviously in my world, just to give a little context, oftentimes it's, guys coming in looking for physique transformation, trying to reclaim energy, their confidence, like really, reclaim the health and fitness standard that's been lost. And so a big conversation is simply, let's stretch the timeline first, right? So this idea of like, okay, I'm going to go do something for 30 days, which we're in a zone of life right now where at the beginning of the year where a lot of people are going to fall into this trap, versus like, hey, can you think a year from now? Like already stretch that out. So I feel like that almost flattens the mountain in a way.
Yeah.
Right. And from there, we operate under this idea of guaranteed minimum standards. And I know we said we'd talk about standards here in a bit, but how do we, again, we reduce that barrier to entry to where it almost feels simple enough that you'd feel stupid to quit. And if you can do that, like you can make probably most goals, but definitely in my space, the health and fitness goal, much, much simpler to achieve. And again, that might be something like you're only looking to do 2 at-home workouts. all of this has to exist in your constraints, and your constraints are going to be specific to you. How many kids do you have? What's your work schedule? All of these things, all of your life, it all has to come into the picture. So all of those things have to kind of fit. Like that's the mountain metaphorically, right? Is your personal constraints. And so, I do think you can probably develop that skill. And typically with guys, when I'm working with them, when they come in, they fill out a intake form that's fairly in depth. And I ask so many guys, or every guy, there's a question: how many days can you realistically do a 45-minute workout? Can't tell you how many guys will put 6 or 7. And the reality is, I'm like, hey, if that was the truth, we probably wouldn't be in a situation where maybe you're looking for some support. And so typically, whatever their answer is, we're going to pull it even further back.
Yeah.
And there's so much power. And again, that confidence piece of just doing what you said you were going to do. And so reduce it down, make it simpler. Maybe that's, again, it could be like in every step of the way, how many exercises that you're going to do in that workout, where you're going to do that workout. Literally think of it as catalysts. Like how many catalysts can you introduce to make the process easier to do? Like that's the work. Doesn't mean the action isn't going to be hard, right? We still need to build resilience. We need to up-level ourselves and our capacity to do work and all of these things, but we got to meet it on both ends. And I think from the simplification side, stripping it down, what is the most bang for your buck exercises that you can focus on, and start there.
Yeah, I've never heard it put like that, introducing the catalyst into this process in order to do the work. Like suddenly now we're almost creating, these moments within our week, within our routine, where it's like we can't avoid it. It's there, it's right there, and there's no getting around it. For us to move on with the rest of our day, the rest of our week, we have to go through that. We have to experience that. And so for me, I look at my world right now, and it's really timely that we're meeting, because it was just a couple months ago where I found myself in this real sort of questioning of identity. And this is going to allow us to move to standards now a little bit as well, is that people have always associated like former swimmer coach, Olympic standards, all these kind of things. I walk into a room, my body still looks like, hey, this is a guy that takes care of himself. This guy takes care of himself. But people associate this assumption with like, oh, he works out. Like he works out, it's a priority, health is a priority. And I found myself fitting in my workouts around October, November. I wasn't scheduling them, I wasn't prioritizing them, I was fitting them in around my day, and suddenly they became rushed, suddenly became incomplete, etc. And I start going like, what's that about? Like that's a complete questioning of standards right there. It was like for me to walk into rooms and claim that I am a health guy, a guy that prioritizes this stuff, when truth be told, internally, I'm like, nah, that's far from the truth. And where I'm going with this, Luke, and there's a question in here for sure, is I in those moments there, I go, well, listen, without, as you're alluding to, without creating these moments in our week where the actions that we take solidify and highlight the standards that we actually want to represent, is the action going to really create that level of accountability, that level of discipline over time that we want it to? And that's what I'm hearing as you allude to this, and which is where I want to go with this now, is like, how early in your work with folks are you getting to the heart of their standards? Yeah, you're getting to know their week, as you just alluded to, and all their habits, but how much are we discussing standards, and how early are you discussing them? So
immediately. But again, this comes down to reducing that barrier to entry. So we layer things in. We start with resistance training. We layer in exercise. We layer in nutrition. We layer in mindset, and then we layer in kind of all the little details and tricks and, the step count and manipulating all of those things. But in the very first week, we have a conversation where it's like, the only thing we're looking to accomplish this first week is we are going to hit our guaranteed minimum standards. And again, when we set this, we collectively set this. This is not me saying, hey, you're going to work out 5 days per week, and you're going to do it at 6 a.m., even though you told me you have to have your kids out of the house at 6:30. We are going to figure out what is realistic for you to do. And I'm probably going to pull it back just a little because I want you to nail it. And so that conversation often looks like, okay, so you can do 3 45-minute workouts. Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, nothing that can get in the way of those. So anything that could come up, any business fire, any kid that could get sick. Oh, actually, on Fridays, I kind of have this rolling. Okay, cool. So the standard is 2 workouts this week. We can hit the stretch goal, but we do not judge the stretch goal. We judge the standard.
Mm.
That guaranteed minimum standard, like when I put it to them, I'm like, this is the no bullshit. It absolutely gets done. So come Saturday night and you got your check-in sheet rolling out Sunday. Guess what? 11:30, when you should be in bed, you're out on your deck in the cold doing your workout because you have to hit that standard.
Mm.
So we immediately set that frame. But again, we set it in a way that I'm going to make it so you can hit it. Right. Like I worked with a guy who it's like, we got on the same call and I'm like, is there anything I could get in the way? And he's like, well, actually my wife is due any day now. And I'm like, what do you mean any day? He's like, could be tomorrow. Yeah. And I love that this guy jumped into coaching right in this like chaotic world where he already has 2 kids and his wife's about to give birth, which by the way, she gave a comment where this was the best recovery she ever had in her pregnancy because he was managing the nutrition now. And like, it was a great household decision.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, like, we're not going to set that guy's standard at 3 or 4 workouts per week. Like we're going to accommodate that. We hit that standard, we build some confidence, and then we expand it. So we are immediately verbally setting that standard right out the gate.
And something you said there, I want to repeat it for the people in the back that weren't listening. Okay. So we judge the standard. We don't necessarily judge the goal or the outcome.
We don't judge the stretch goal. We can have a stretch goal.
Yes. And so for me, it's like that can help us get out of our own way so much. Because if we look at the stretch goal, we're looking at it through metrics. We're looking at it in this way of like, did I hit it, so to speak? Or am I moving toward it at the rate that I want to? And we're getting way too outside of ourselves. Excuse me. We're getting way too outside of ourselves. We're getting to a point where it's like, internally, like, what's the check? What's the diagnostic check that I need to make right now? You know, and that standard allows us to say, oh, hey, am I still committed to the standard? Even if I feel as though from a performance, if I feel as though from what I'm seeing on paper, what I'm feeling in my workouts, it's not quite leading me to where I thought we were going in this moment.
Sure.
Am I still being true to that standard? That's the encouragement, right? That's what keeps us going.
And, you know, the flip side of that, I think, is important to look at because, again, a guy might hear that and he's like, no, I want to do more. And I've talked so many guys off that ledge. And again, we'll get there, but we don't need to waste leverage, particularly when it's our physiology. It's only going to adapt so fast. So if we're in good rates of change, simply layering on more for more's sake won't get us there faster. We're just wasting leverage. But more importantly, what happens when this goes wrong is cataclysmic for guys. So if you set that standard for 5 days per week, when logistically, that's just not realistic for your current circumstances. There's seasons, there's ebbs and flows in life where things will adjust. But if it's tactically not realistic for you to do the 6 workouts per week, and you set that goal repeatedly and you fail to hit it, you're doing the opposite of building confidence through competence. You're reinforcing a belief that I'm an overweight guy. I'm not a healthy and fit guy. And we have to desperately avoid going down that path because you've probably already done enough of that. You probably already lack a little confidence that, like, can I really do this? Because you've probably tried. We're going to flip that on its head. And we do that through, again, making that a guaranteed minimum standard.
Yeah.
And we could talk about minimal effective dose versus minimum, there's some nuance there, right?
Yeah.
But I would take pragmatic that you're going to achieve over optimal that sets you up for failure any day of the week.
Yeah, you're touching on it. You're touching on what I'm about to ask you, but I want to get a bit more specific. You use this term wasting leverage. I want you to dive a little bit more into that for our listeners. I think it's really important just to define that more.
So again, in my world, let's say somebody shows up and they have a goal of, losing some body fat. And, I'll use a client right now who, he's 10 weeks in, he's about 15 pounds down. That's a really, really good rate of change. To say, hey, I want to do it faster. It's like, okay, could we go a little faster? Maybe. Well, what are our leverage points? How many workouts are we doing? If you're at 6, you can throw in a 7. Well, if you're at 7, you can throw in 8. What's your step count? Oh, you're already at 5,000. Okay, cool. We could push that up to 7,500. But if that rate of change is already at an adequate level, simply going from 5,000 steps to 10,000 steps, it might not deliver the physiological outcome you're looking for because there's some adaptive properties that happen. When we just do more physical output, we downregulate in some other areas. So really we're looking to land in those zones of physiological change, and let's just soak it from here until things change, and then let's pull that lever as needed. So again, if I can get a guy where it's like, dude, you're getting really great outcomes with 3 workouts in a week, the rate of change is right where we need it. We don't need to pull that lever and jack up our step count or cut our calories radically, because the juice usually won't be as worth the squeeze. And then when things do naturally slow down, we have those tools to access.
There's so much strategy involved that we're talking about here that I think people can relate to. And again, if someone's listening to this and like, Luke, I'm already crushing my health and wellness, like this is not an episode for me. I'm like, no, hang on, before you turn off, before you go somewhere else. It is, because what you're talking to here is human nature. We want to ask for more. We want to demand more of ourselves. But if we keep doing it without necessarily looking at the rate in which we're doing it and the time in which we're doing it, we leave ourselves vulnerable to having no card to play. We're running out of all moves. Like when we do get those opportunities to grow, it's like, well, you played your hand, and you're out, Yep. And so I think that for me is, whether it be your health and wellness you're trying to improve, the business you're trying to grow, the way in which you invest in your family, this is all relevant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's obviously I'm speaking to like the physiological side, but I think there's the psychological side of that too, right?
Right.
Where like, and this isn't necessarily to pull people back from like working harder, doing more. It's just, there is physiological pushback at some point. To give just a general quote, like you can't sprint forever. Mm-hmm. So if we can be strategic with it, and get really good outcomes, that without wasting that leverage, with saving some of that, physiologically it makes sense, but also psychologically, it's like it saves some capacity for you as well. Because if you're running on red to where you're like, man, I'm barely able to do all of this stuff, and then you compare that outcome with the actual physical response, you might look at it and be like, ooh, I don't know if this is worth it. Mm-hmm. Versus imagine the difference if, again, whether it's, rates of weight loss change or strength improvements, how you're feeling. And then you look at the actual input that you're doing and you're like, wow, this actually feels kind of easy. Like, what a great place to be. Great. You got more energy. You're more confident. Your body works better. You're stronger. You're leaner. And the way that you're getting there feels kind of easy. Yeah. Again, I don't mean like the workouts are going to be hard, but from a holistic, systemic standpoint, you think, wow, I could just keep doing this. That's a winning place to be, versus so many guys take an approach where they're barely clinging on to the process.
Yeah.
And then they compare it to the results, and it's like, the results are good, but it's like, is it worth all this? I just skipped my kid's birthday party. I haven't gone out with my friends in months. Mm-hmm. I'm exhausted. Like, that's a losing path to go down.
Yeah. And I want to put the light on Luke a little bit here in a minute, but the way I'm going to do it is we both operate in worlds where it's really easy for our clients to help us put a mirror up in front of ourselves. And, you're a guy that is likely preaching and directing and leading folks to do certain things. And at any point, it's like, well, how are you doing with that, Luke? How are you doing with that? And I live in the same world. Here I am working with these executives, working with these leaders. And there'll be times where we're going down a certain path, and I'm thinking, man, I'm glad I'm not the one answering the questions. I'm the one asking the questions.
Sure.
And so for you, when you look at this ability that we all have to operate in the red, we do. Mm-hmm. We all have that ability to operate in the red based on seasons in life. Firstly, how and when does that happen for you? And when it does, what does that personal approach look like for maybe coming out of it?
This is a place that I do think, and maybe a little different approach in that, like, I've often joked and said, I'm like the fitness guy. And meaning, like, I don't fit in on, like, I don't even work out at a gym. Like, I work out on my deck. I mean, I do jujitsu at a gym. Yeah. But it's existed for such a long time as a place to support my life. I've never done a bodybuilder show. Like, that whole world just seems strange to me. More power to those people who are doing that. Uh-huh. So I do have a pretty, I think, almost balanced approach around it. Doesn't mean I don't fall victim to circumstances. And like, I'd tell you like, oh my God, I would self-identify as like a sugar addict. And like, I know how to manage that. And like and I share this with clients all the time who like, when they like overconsume, I'm like, you really thought you were only going to have two? I'm like, I could eat the whole box of Oreos. Like, I know myself, you know, if you were to say, hey, do you want a cookie? The answer is, well, how many do you have? Right. So like, I know the pitfalls. I've done this long enough. So I also know how to be self-protective in environmental constraints. But I'm also aware, because I've done this long enough, the cost is generally not as big as most make it. And so like, I was just in Hawaii on vacation for 12 days. And it's like, I worked out twice while I was there. And for a lot of people, they'd be like, whoa, wait, wouldn't you? And for some clients, I'd actually maybe push them to do more because they're still in that season of growth where they're still becoming the guy who's fit. But I have no qualms about that. And I was just on another show sharing this. I actually lost weight on vacation. And because I was really active, we were snorkeling, got out to do some hiking. The food was solid, right? But the difference is I don't have any, that's a trap for so many guys. I come back from that. I've done this long enough, and this is what I do share with guys, and again, to get to use them a bit as a mirror, is it's not as consequential, that mistake, if you want to call it that, as most people think. So I'm able to step back into my world, and I'm just right back into it, and it's no big deal. Where for a lot of guys, maybe it's a week off, maybe it's one bad meal, and it's this consequential, cataclysmic failure. And I don't have that emotional tethering to that. Because I've done this long enough to know, hey, I can look at that as that was a good rest break that I took, and I can frame it there. So then I get back in, and I'm going to be hitting things real hard the next month, and I'm excited about it. And so there's that mental juggling there. And again, I do get to see that with clients, and I hate to say this, I see that as such a consistent struggle that it does highlight the other side of that.
But that's the high performing personality that you're working with, right? I mean, that's it's one thing I really appreciate and love about the title that you give yourself in your work is high performing fitness and lifestyle coach. It's like a system in a title, if you will. It's like, hey, really for high performers, we are guilty of so many of these things that you're acknowledging here. And typically we're the last person to kind of see it until someone we either hire or someone in our world is able to put that mirror up and be like, can I just break this down for you in the most basic terms possible of how you're getting in your own way? Like you need to see this. But for me, I relate so much to what you're saying as well, is that when it becomes a standard, we're using that term again, when it becomes this minimum standard of how we show up and who we represent in that moment by how we show up, you start to, when you go through a 7-day period where you're away on vacation, you start to wonder, like, is that standard really what I claim it is when I just did what I did the last 3 days, 4 days, or whatever it is? But I'm hearing that there's maybe an argument that you're making here for periods of growth, which obviously we're all about on this show, but at the same time, periods of maintenance, like what the maintaining versus the growth period, right?
Totally. And again, this is respecting seasons of life. And with clients, we have those conversations because we want to set, again, this is like managing the psychology side. The worst thing we can do is create, again, a cataclysmic environment where everything feels like it's going off the rails. So being real with our expectations, depending on the season that you're at, and I'm going to speak about myself here from a physique standpoint and a health standpoint, like I'm pretty dialed. So I have a little bit more latitude to quote play if I wanted to, meaning like that 2 workouts in 12 days, again, is inconsequential. Yeah. If I was working with somebody who's just starting, it's like they actually have to learn to be the guy that shows up on vacation a little bit because they're still in that growth process. So leading up to that 12 days, I dialed things up. I pushed hard to then necessitate, we could call it an actual deload if we want to put some physiological terms to it, that it's a strategic deload where I'm actually giving my body a physical rest to then ramp back up. But from a more holistic lifestyle standpoint for the guys that I'm working with, it's also just recognizing the season that they're in, meaning I had a gentleman who it's like, cool, man, you're getting married, you got married, and you're going to Morocco and Portugal for your honeymoon for 12 days. Mm-hmm. To say that we're going to have the exact same rate of fat loss, which was his goal, is that reasonable? To say, sorry, honey, we're canceling that food and wine Moroccan local cuisine tour that we set
Yeah.
versus maybe we refine our expectation and say, hey, if we came back and we maintained our weight, will we be happy with that? That might be a great goal for that little intermediate. So there is ebbs and flows. There is seasons of life. Again, I love when I work with guys, they'll come to me all the time. This is so funny to me. And they'll be like, well, should I wait till after this before I get started? And it's like, it's usually a business trip. It could be like something like that wedding. Yeah. It could be the holidays. And I'm like, no. We want those. In fact, I would rather you show up with those because that's life.
Yes.
And I literally just got a message from a client yesterday, beginning or a week ago, beginning of the new year. And they were like, I remember you told me not to wait till after the holidays. And I'm so glad I didn't, because those are like the speed bumps that we have to figure out. Where are you at in your season? How do you need to show up? So for the gentleman in Portugal, guess what? He did a 15-minute hotel room workout every other day. He actually did lose weight while he was on his honeymoon. Still kept all the food stuff. We pushed step count. Like, it's not about putting your life off. It's how do we integrate these tools into your life in the season that you're at?
Yeah. Lifestyle. That's, again, it's fitness and it's lifestyle. But so much of, gosh, when you said, hey, should I wait? Should I wait till after this? I mean, welcome to the other part of our show. Like, we've talked about growth now, probably for like the first 25 minutes or so. And now it's like, here's the ready piece, people. This is the piece that we always get stuck with. It's like, do we actually want to acknowledge, like, hey, don't delay because you don't think that this is the time to be ready for this. Like, just go ahead and start. You said it before, like, start small. Like, just because you've got this coming up or that coming up, don't delay. Just start small and find a little bit of evidence maybe in that time of, hey, this could work long term. This could work long term. But by delaying, it's just like, that's your way of saying that what you claimed on the front end that you wanted to see, maybe you don't want it as badly as you claim, and that's okay. That's fine. But let's have a conversation about that. Like, where is the fear? Where is the fear of failure early on? And why is that preventing you from getting started in the first place? But Luke, man, where I want to go with this is, I love bringing in all the different facets of life that allow us to perform as a human more than a professional versus a person, all this kind of stuff. And what you represent is obviously part of the human experience. And you touched on it earlier, like the lifestyle components. You referenced a client because of what they did. The new mom wife was like, hey, look what you just did to our home life. Like, everything's changed because of it. How much are you integrating just the entirety of a person's life? We've touched on ways that you've considered meetings and considered different seasons and whatnot, but I'm talking more now about the people, like the people that benefit potentially from an individual's decision to invest in the sort of world, obviously, that you operate in.
It's a huge part of it. So, both from a motivation and a tactical standpoint. So from a motivational standpoint, it's going to be huge. Every guy I work with goes through an exercise called the Big Why. Love when I get a dad to show up because I know where it's going to go. Right. If you're I'm 41. It's like being a 38-year-old or a 42-year-old. Like, do they want to look better? Yeah. But those guys are actually showing up thinking like, I want to be able to play with my kids. Like, I want to have the energy to like chase them. I have guys that are starting to talking about grandkids, right? And they're thinking that long term. Yeah. So from a motivational standpoint, that's an incredible tool that we can hang, that motivational cap on to drive behavior when times are tough. But also from a tactical standpoint, like, again, in that intake form, it's like, who else in your world is going to dictate your nutritional decisions? These are the roadblocks, again, to sit here and say, all right, Steve, I'm using you metaphorically. Yeah. Cool, man. You got 40 pounds to lose. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this is all, I'm being sarcastic here, folks. We're going to put your life on hold. We're going to create Steve's little meals. He's going to go down to the basement, eat separately from the family. You're going to not be able to go on that vacation. Right. Probably going to have to cut out some time that you spend with the wife. Kids, not going to see them because we got to get fit. Right. Huge swing and a miss. It's like the point of getting healthy and fit is to show up as your best self for whatever actually is important to you, which probably is going to be your career, probably is going to be, being a dad. So all of those things have to integrate. all of those things often are the challenges. So like I have a client right now who messaged me, and it's like one of the things that was kind of tripping him up is he sees food waste from young kids, drives him mad, right? So he's kind of like cleaning up their leftovers. And it's like, that's a tangible challenge that, obviously as a father, like you got to deal with that. So
I relate to that guy.
yeah, totally. Right. Yeah. We can talk about how we deal with that. So that is the work, right? Yeah. It'd be easy if you could set all of that aside. And I think this is a mistake people make, is they try to do that and they have this temporary hold where they shut everything down and they think they're going to go hard for 60 days and fix some solution. And then they step back into their real world, or they don't step back. And we all know this guy in like the business world who loses his marriage, has 3 kids that don't talk to him, and he's 60 pounds overweight because he just went hard his whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's encouraging, man, to hear you break it down like this for us, because I think when we have entrepreneurs, leaders listen to this, when they're building out their business, when they're looking at their executive teams, etc., that they're asking these kind of questions, funnily enough, like what are all these people going to be saying? When are they going to be saying it? Where do I need them to be? And then, man, do we suck at this when it comes to just ourselves, when it comes to just our health and our wellness. And it's the part that's always left me baffled, quite frankly. Like because so much of what you're saying, there's so much science in it, is when we can get clear on the why, most of these standards naturally appear, and then the behaviors that uphold those standards then start to appear too.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, we just cannot, again, get out of our own way and establish something as simple as a why for us to fit this time in, a why for us to be healthy enough to be around for said child, said grandchild, whatever it might be. In your experience, why do you think that is? Why do you think we struggle so much with just not only labeling the why, but maybe even just remembering the why?
I think it's the next step after, to be honest. So the why, I think, is really important. Again, I have a whole little guys have to write it out. I have them hang it up. It's important to pull on in those times of need, right? But that next step, which is how do we actually upgrade the identity so we can make identity-based decisions that will lead us into a place of flow, lead us into a place of congruency, where actually doing the things starts to feel easier. If we're just holding on to I'm doing it for my kid, but you haven't made any identity shift, you're constantly going to be fighting that congruency piece, working against yourself. It's like swimming upstream. It's like, man, you can sustain for a while, but then usually it comes crashing down, and it usually comes crashing down from something external. Again, like work fires, a kid getting sick. Again, in your world, it could be some organizational change at the top of leadership. If we haven't integrated a new identity, an upgraded identity, that why probably won't be enough to get you there. You're going to have a new frame, a new lens of decision making that does incorporate some level of health and fitness. The mistake, and where there's, I think, a challenge for a lot of guys to take that leap, and what prevents them, they've only been presented an idea of that is something that is so incongruent with their life, which is that of Instagram fitness influencer bodybuilder nonsense. That is so incongruent from a time and logistics standpoint with their life that they can't even take that first step and understand, no, there's a different way that you can integrate with this that still does support those things that you care about. But if we are not leveraging and making identity-based decisions, tough battle.
Yeah, and that's the identity challenge that we face, because we sometimes start with the identity in mind, because we are in that comparison mindset, looking at Instagram, looking at this. And I love where you took that, is this idea. It's not about simply identifying the why. It's anchoring that why into your identity. And I talk about it all the time in my work. It's like, you may hire someone like me, you may hire someone like Luke to hold you accountable at first, but I believe, and maybe you agree with this, we're helping them become accountable. We want them to become accountable in that. That's the identity part, right?
Yes. So on every first call with a client, I'm like, my goal in working together is to be the last stop that you have to deal with this. And we're going to do that through setting up long-term systems. There's an educational process that comes with this, but if we don't do it in a way where that you learn to self-audit, if we don't build lifelong skills and we don't upgrade that identity, you're always going to feel reliant on me as a coach. Some guys take longer to get there, but that is the end goal. And so we're tactical about how we do that. Again, we craft out that big why. But then we're also tactical in crafting out that identity. And so for most guys that I'm working with, it's like they become fitpreneur, they become fit dad, healthy dad, like they label it, right? Like they got to own it. And then we reinforce that again. This kind of comes back to that confidence piece. We use this concept of hard lines, and we literally lay down and verbalize hard lines that are going to act as buffers or containers in the area that normally would be the pitfall to help reinforce that identity. So as an example, with a client, it's like, I, fit dad, do not clean up and eat kid food.
Right.
And that helped a guy navigate the fact that, man, I'm snacking on my kids' kind of like junk food that they still kind of had in the house. And it's like, boom, that gets cleaved when the motivation is, like I'm going to use a specific guy right now. Motivation is, am I going to be strong enough to carry my special needs daughter on a hike when I'm 50? That's a big why, right? So now we're going to put the hard line of, I don't eat as fit dad who can carry my special needs daughter on a hike when I'm 50. I don't fall victim to kid food in the house.
Yeah.
And like when you start to layer it through that lens, now there's like an effort of continuity and congruency that you're looking to build with your decision making and your actions. And then over time, again, you're going to get into this self-fulfilling prophecy of like, wow, I just feel really good doing things this way. And then I don't want to say that those things can erode. And like those guardrails, because there's probably going to be a few that you're always going to keep in your life. Like again, me around cookies, right?
Yeah.
But at some point it's just way of being. Yeah. It's who you are. And it now exists in the same lens that you're already identifying with however you are, right? As like the leader in work, the CEO, you can have that same kind of anchored identity. And when you get to that point, that's how you go on vacation for 12 days, work out twice a week or twice, and eat good, come back, no worse for the wear, and feel good about it.
Absolutely. It's beautiful in the grand scheme of life. Like that for me is everything that you're presenting right now. It's like, can you hear and see the beauty? Can you hear and see the power in all of this in terms of if we truly convince ourselves it's worth immersing ourselves in? Because I'm hearing that too. It's like the immersive component, because that's what's part of an identity. But it does come with a clear point of entry. It does come with a small step or two at the beginning.
Yep.
It does come with the flattening of the mountain, as we talked about, which I love that concept now of like, how do we flatten the mountain as opposed to climb the mountain? But then at the same time, to finish, I really want to just get your opinion on this whole term of high performance, because you're a high performance coach. I consider myself a high performance coach. We both coach high performers. This is a podcast for high performers. And so here we are using this term. And I'm just curious in closing, man, like when you present that term, how are you presenting that term? What does that term truly mean to you? Because I think this helps sometimes for our listeners to sort of say like, hey, let's not assume what we mean by high performance. Let's maybe try and define it a little bit.
Yeah, gosh, I might have an interesting and maybe a different perspective that I'm going to offer, which is I would almost say what I do is clears the path so you can be the high performer. I don't even know that I would say I'm helping you do high performance in that sense. Your health, your wellness are so foundational in everything that you do that if that is not there, it would be impossible for you to be a high performer in whatever definition any other person has created.
Yeah.
You simply are missing such a foundational block of that pyramid. So what I'm doing is helping lay that so that you can go be a high performer in whatever capacity that is. And for somebody who's absolutely crushing it in whatever space they are, if you do not, I don't know if we're allowed to swear here, but if you do not have your shit together in your health and wellness, man, you might be crushing, but like there's another gear to you that you're not accessing. Wow. It'd be impressive to see what you could do if you had that.
Yeah. You are creating entry points to better define and achieve high performance. And that you are speaking my language. I love that you're able to break it down for our listeners like that, because I think it goes back to so much of what you've said here is that it's too easy for us to compare ourselves to said high performer and say, what about them? Can I see in myself? And suddenly now the entry point that we're defining high performance. Sorry, we're creating the entry point by saying this is where we have to define high performance.
Sure.
And we're not allowing the entry point to be the path to high performance, which again, right, in your world is why we don't start. It's why people come up with the reason to delay time and time again.
Yep. And then in my, again, to bring this back to my space of like, okay, so now I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week because I'm a high performance guy. And that's, I'm crushing it in business. And it's like, well, you didn't start crushing it in business. You also started, at $0 before you built a $10 billion company. Same thing in this space. So I think avoiding that cataclysmic fall off of jumping in the deep end is so important.
I love it. Well, my hope is that people heard what I heard throughout this episode, which is that of understanding where we have that willingness to fail, as you spoke to at the outset. And if we go in with a willingness to fail, we go in with a willingness to learn, a willingness to say like, hey, it's going to take a couple of small steps to get going. I'm going to be an amateur at first. Yeah. That's okay. I'm a beginner right now. The best thing about being a beginner, the only way is up. But when we look at that mountain, we say, okay, hang on, the mountain's not too big of a climb, actually, if I stretch this thing out a little bit. And when we stretch it out, we give ourselves a little bit more grace. We allow ourselves to say, hey, listen, when it comes to how I just show up consistently, how I can implement some of those guaranteed minimum standards to give me a little bit of traction here, to get some momentum going with this, then I can get competent, then I can build confidence. And that right there, brother, it's like we are opening the door to high performers right there, but not on arrival, some point down the road, and just giving them that lifestyle that they need. And man, I'm just so thankful again for your time. I don't know where the time went between now and when we first spoke, but I love following you, man. I'm a fan of yours. I'm a cheerleader of all that you do. And I'm just thankful that you could come on and again, be so generous with your insights and help folks maybe find that path for themselves. But listen, maybe there's a guy that associates himself as a high performer or wannabe high performer that's listening to this. And I know all your work, sometimes some of it's local, some of it's hybrid and virtual. So talk to us about how we can learn more about you if anybody's curious to learn more about you.
Sure. Easiest place to connect with me is fitmentproject.com. Should have, info there as far as connecting with me. Pretty active on LinkedIn as well. If you want to shoot me a message there, happy to have a conversation, with anybody who's listening. I always tell everybody there's no big, twist your arm sales pitch, but for the right guys who are, ready to step in, looking for a more tangible, simplified path to integrate this, it can be truly transformational.
Love it. Well, you hear it there in the name, guys. Fitment Project. This is a project of Luke's, and you'll be doing a brother a favor if you just reach out to him, get in touch, learn a little bit more about how you can maybe be involved in that project and be part of the ever-growing list of fantastic results that I know come out of it. So, Luke, again, appreciate your time, brother. Thanks again. And hey, you know what? You make me feel more accountable because you tell me you're 41. I'll be 41 this year. Usually I'm the youngest looking 41-year-old, but you're younger looking than me, brother. So thanks for the accountability. I appreciate it.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.